All right, well, let's kick this thing off. We've got a ton of people now just sort of trickling in here, super exciting. So just to start off with, let me pull up my screen here. Really just want to welcome everybody to this event. Thank you so much for joining and being here with us. We are not a community without members like you guys. We love bringing everybody together, having really cool conversations about Atlassian tools, best practices for teams, all sorts of things. So I'm really excited to have all of you guys join. This group is we're hosting technically within Boise. I'm in Boise, Idaho, but we have co-hosts throughout the world. And that's just one of the beauty of having these virtual events, is really just being able to have anybody join, not just the local members, but really everyone sort of come together and share, their love of Atlassian and sometimes our struggles as well, and really be here to help and support each other out. So just really excited to have you guys all here. Today, we are going to be talking about new navigation, specifically really focused on Jira, but it is coming for more. And Kristen will, I'm sure, share some more details there for us as well. And so really just excited to have her here. A few things I want to start out with. First of all, Team 25 is coming up super quick. So April 8th through the 10th. This year, it is actually going to be in Anaheim, California, instead of Las Vegas. So we've got a little location change right across the street from Disneyland. So, if you want to venture over there on your trip and extend it on either end, highly recommended. It is also online, and you can join for free online. We have awesome speakers. All the speakers and presentations have been announced already, so you can go and check them out and see who's going to be there and see some awesome events there. It is an amazing event. I have gone the last few years, and it's just a great way not only to learn more about Atlassian tools, but really just connect with people across the globe. How are people using Teams? Atlassian tools and Jira and Confluence. And so I just really, really highly recommend, and we all look forward to seeing you there. First, just want to start with just a little bit of housekeeping. Please keep yourself on mute during the presentation, just so we can kind of get a good recording to share with others later. Use the chat for Q&A. Community leaders on this call will be able to monitor and support throughout the event. So if you have questions, we'll do our best to try to answer what we can. And then if anything, we'll get Kristen's feedback and thoughts on that as well as she's going through the presentation. We will have dedicated time at the end for some specific questions, but at times we may interject and ask a question during the middle as well. So we are recording the event and we'll be able to share it. So to answer that question, I know that one always comes up. And then we're going to be sharing some links to different resources throughout as well. And we'll make sure and get those out to all of you guys who attended. So you kind of have those links to those resources available at your fingertips. So with that, I want to just introduce Kristen. So Kristen is a senior group product manager for the Jira core experiences at Atlassian. She is really part of strategy, roadmap, vision for Jira, and that is really a lot of what this navigation is about, is really sort of moving Atlassian forward and making positive changes. I know some of you are probably a little bit hesitant. Navigation changes are always a little bit scary sometimes, right? Challenging if you're an admin, getting your team on board. But I think you're going to be really excited to see what she has to share and to walk through all of this. So with that, Kristen, I'm going to hand it off to you and show us this awesome new world we are going to have with navigation.
Amazing. Yeah, I appreciate the intro. You basically did my first slide for me, so thank you for that. So can everyone just see my screen? Can someone just say it? I can't actually see you guys on my screen.
Yep, looks good.
Okay, awesome. So I guess the first thing I'll just kind of set the stage with is what I'm going to talk through. One, I kind of want to talk to you about the new navigation and give you a bit of a sense of what we were actually going for, and then you'll start to understand some of the principles we applied and why we took certain choices. I think that's important just to make sure we're all on the same page. And then the second thing I'm going to cover is why are we doing this? As Erica said, nav changes are hard, they're tenuous, it basically changes the front door of any product. So why are we doing this and what are we specifically trying to solve? And then I want to share some of the things that we actually learned from our customers throughout kind of our EAP process, our open beta, and just some of the good feedback we've been getting to give you guys a little bit more confidence that this is actually a good thing, because I do know this is a bit of a change. And then I'll walk you through a live demo for the end user, kind of what the end user is going to see. There is an admin demo, but that is actually in the community post that I've linked out to or referenced in my page. So you can just kind of see that there. And then, as Erica said, plenty of time for Q&A. I want you to hit me with all your hard questions as well. So let's just get into it. So we'll just talk through the new navigation. So when we'll take a big step back and say, when we started thinking about, reimagining the navigation, what are some of the things we wanted people to say, and what do we want them to be able to do? And so we want people to stay organized. We know that trying to find stuff is incredibly hard, and everyone has a particular way of organizing. Sometimes it's by tabs, sometimes it's by color codes and things like that. And we know that the way people use Jira and the way they organize their Jira is very, very different in how they use it. So we want to make sure that's top of mind. The other thing that we wanted to make sure we really hit was keeping people focused. You can bounce in, you can bounce out, and it's really hard to kind of get stuff done if you're constantly shifting. So how do you make sure that everything is kind of in flow and in context? And the last thing we wanted to make sure we actually achieved was making sure things were productive. A nav that doesn't help you get to where you need to be and complete your task quicker is not a good nav, in my opinion. So the first principle around staying organized, you'll see some of the features here. We wanted to kind of create a solution for how you work, not the other way around. So when you look at the new nav, there's things like recents and stars. You can quickly go to where you need to be. Some people love starring. I know my boss loves to star all the projects and just click in and go right there. They're in, they're ready to get what they need. And some people love to customize their side nav. So this is a relatively new feature. And what we've observed is that customization is a bit of a shift for some users, just because it's a bit of a paradigm move for us. So typically when we think of customization, it's admin customization, project customization, and it will impact all of those things. But for this in particular solution, it is only for you. So if you only use one project, or maybe you just use plans, you don't really care about projects, you can actually shift the navigation to fit what you need, and you don't have to see the rest of that clutter there. And to get into kind of how we're thinking about staying focused, if you think about how the navigation is today, you have projects, you have assets, you have all these things up top. So you're moving in between two parts of the navigation. What we wanted to do is really simplify that, keep things global up top, and put all the different kind of project scope things on the sidebar. So you can flip in between, in and out. And we've gotten really great feedback on this. So this is kind of how we're looking to kind of keep you in context. So you don't have to go here and then here and here. It just kind of creates a lot of cognitive overload that you don't really need. And then lastly, we wanted to give it a modern look and feel. We heard it's clunky. It looks like it's from the 90s. Touche. We went and we kind of added a whole new kind of visual refresh to it to give it a little bit more pop color and make it more accessible and scalable. So the question, the $64,000 question, why the new navigation? So I think you're all familiar with our mission. We want to release the potential of every team, but navigation is an extremely core part of that. It is central to how teams find and move work. It is, as I mentioned, the front door of a product. It impacts every single user action that happens. And so when we think about some of the things that we were hearing in industry, we realize our current navigation isn't fit for purpose. So give you a fun stat. 40% of time spent by workers is searching for information in products. We commissioned a study last year, and that's what we found. So 40% of your time is like, where did I put something? How do I do this? And navigation was core to helping to solve that. And when we look at our own feedback, 33% of all of our negative CSAT feedback is on findability and navigation. So we're pretty much at the average, the industry average, that we're not actually helping customers find what they need. And so we started to dig into that feedback, and what we found is there's a few themes, and one of them was inconsistency. So with Atlassian in general, what we realized is as our product portfolio grew and grew and grew and grew, each individual product had their own navigation, and it felt like a very different product every time. There was no consistency. So if you're in Jira and then you go to Confluence, you have to remember where things are at. You kind of have to kind of reset your model. You have to be like, cool, this is where I go for this. In Confluence, this is where I go for this. In Jira, and it's just a mess. And it creates a lot of cognitive overload for customers and a really, really tough experience. The other thing I think we observed pretty clearly was that we aren't following industry behaviors and standards. So there were, things around clutter. Our navigation is cluttered comparatively to any other competitor you're comparing us to be honest. And so how do we actually declutter the sidebar and declutter the navigation to allow it to actually kind of be very clear about what we want you to do and what you can do in the product? Uh, Trying to be efficient in completing tasks, like that was terrible because you had to figure out, okay, do I go here, do I go here? And it just did not kind of sit well with the industry, like what we compared the industry to. And lastly, we also want to make sure the navigation works within the Atlassian suite of products, but also with kind of the different products that you use every single day. We know Atlassian is potentially a big part of, the tools you use, but we also know you use other tools. And going from one tool to another into Atlassian, we don't want that to be a big shift either. So we're trying to use affordances and patterns from other kind of common products that people use to be able to build that into the navigation. So it's less of a shock and less of a, I guess, behavioral change, and it's more kind of just fluid throughout. And again, this goes back to making sure you can stay focused and in context, because you can move from product A into Atlassian and you know where to find things. You just intuitively know where to go. And then lastly, the scalability aspect, the way the navigation, the current navigation was going, it would be really hard to be able to serve the bigger markets we're going after. Because if you recall in Team 24, we're going after all teams. We're merging Jira software and Jira work management. We have a complete new set of customers we have to serve with new use cases, but the current nav wasn't going to be able to scale that quite well. And so that's why we built the new nav. And so with that, hopefully what you'll see when I do the demo here is kind of 4 key pieces. One is kind of that new look and feel. So we have a consistent experience across 6 different products. So Jira is obviously one product, but there's also 6 others that have gone through this journey with us in terms of the navigation change. The way that we picked those 6, which is probably useful for you all to know, is what is the highest overlap with Jira and how do we make sure we have that, like almost even as a teamwork collection type of view. These are the products that teams use with Jira, and how do we make sure that's consistent just to get the ball rolling with the new navigation. So you will see that consistency. The other thing is around staying in flow. And so this goes back into how we took decisions to move things to the sidebar out of the top to make sure that you can just kind of move in between different pieces. And I'll show you what that looks like. And you have the opportunity to actually just hide stuff you don't need. It doesn't actually delete it, just to be very clear. It just hides it. So you can actually just keep the view as you want it to be. And so the last kind of piece here, I kind of jumped in, merged these 2 together, is really kind of making sure that experience looks new, looks fresh, is comparable to competitors, because that is something that I think when we think about trying to drive adoption of Atlassian tools within organizations, it is kind of a common theme that keeps coming up that we wanted to make sure we definitely addressed. But in that, we also took, a focus on making sure it's accessible, making sure it's better readability with icons, and it's also scalable as well. So we don't have to keep going through this new navigation song and dance all the time, which I'm sure we're all appreciative of. So hopefully that gives you some context. And now, what have we learned? So these are all like the Atlassian perspectives, but when we hand it over to customers, what did we find out? And so I'll start with EAP. So EAP was back in October, and we were very focused in EAP with who we selected. We had a very short EAP. It was around 4 to 6 weeks. And the reason why we kept it short is we had already done some testing previously with the Chrome extension, and we kind of eliminated some choices and design choices that we needed to think about. But then we decided to take a few bets and started to learn from the EAP. And the bets we took were probably pushing the edge of some of those kind of organized, focused, and productive principles. And so we were really just kind of keen for this cohort of people, of very specific people, how do they react? And so the other thing I'll mention as well is that we also ran a parallel EAP with partners. We know this change is massive for partners as well. This is a shift in how their products show up in Atlassian. So we wanted to make sure that we brought in an overlapping customer set and marketplace partner set so we could understand, does this change usage? What are customers saying? And how can we kind of make sure we can enhance the experience for marketplace partners as well in future iterations? And so you'll see here the different products that we had in the EAP. So Jira, Jira Service Management, Jira Product Discovery, Atlassian Home, Confluence, and Atlassian Focus. We had over 100 different customers and partners join this EAP, which was super exciting. And the other thing we wanted to test as well, because the whole inflow moving in between kind of concepts we wanted to test, we did have over 60% of those being multi-product users, because we wanted to make sure, like, did the choices we take to move in between and keep people in context, were those the right choices? So what this ended up being is about 30,000 monthly active users. We're actually in the EAP. They were very active, which was great for us. And our core success metric was actually this opt-out rate. And I'm going to explain to you what the opt-out rate means. So we gave users choice. So their site admins and product admins said, yep, put us in the EAP. We want to test with you guys. And then we basically gave users, do you want this nav or do you want this nav? And ultimately, what this is saying is that we have about 98.3 or 97.3 percent of people picking the new navigation. This is after a 2-week retention period. And even now, which I'm excited to say, because we didn't take the experience away from EAP, the customers are still kind of, the opt-out rate has actually trended down a little bit. So it's about 2.5 at this point. But 10 weeks on, they're still picking the new navigation, which is super exciting for us. So let's fast forward to maybe, I think, November, December timeframe, and we moved to kind of beta. So open beta, we basically removed all the constraints that we had previously. So we went across all editions, all user tenures, all site types, so testing, sandbox, production, a variety of different things. And we opened it up to the same kind of cohort of customers that had these products. So as you can see here, like, the number of monthly active users that we have touching this thing exploded. It's like by order of magnitude. And so we wanted to do this on purpose because we said, hey, with a closed group of people, these choices make sense. Let's open it up to the masses and see how does this actually perform. And so we also were running a few different, experiments, if you will, to understand, for new users, how does this work? For basically those new users, they don't have the customer, or the context of what a previous navigation was. And it's a really, really great way for us to test, is this actually better? Because what we are really aware of is that for existing customers, this change is going to be hard, which is why we're doing things like this. We're building out a lot more enablement material, but we want to understand how our existing customers use the new nav, and does it actually help them support their needs? But then with new users who have no context of that, kind of fast forwarding past the customer behavioral change aspect, are we making the right choices? So we wanted to take different viewpoints and different customer cohorts to make sure we are headed in the right direction. So that opt-out rate for existing customers is actually a little bit lower, which is super exciting on a larger volume of users. And then when we compare kind of the different cohorts that we had, so our existing users and our new users, we're actually seeing a lot of positive kind of activity. And what I mean by this, like, what we're seeing is we are seeing more end users taking more actions in the product because we have a more clear navigation and we can help you get to where you need to be. They're completing more tasks, they're more active in the projects, which is super exciting to see, because at the end of the day, we do want people to progress work forward, and seeing that they're taking more actions is exciting. And I think it's indicative of the more simple design that we put in place. The other piece of that is we're seeing more active teams. So we're seeing more people in teams and sites actually be active and progress work forward, which is really great to be able to kind of, bring that together, drive that collaboration, and move things from A to B quicker. And then the other thing that we're noticing as well is more cross-product usage. And I'll show you how this is actually manifesting, because it's actually quite cool that you can go in between a variety of different products just from the side nav. I can tell you for a fact, my senior engineering manager loves this. He manages multiple different teams across Atlassian to kind of help make this happen. And he can just click in and out and move in between and have no issues whatsoever. And so as opposed to trying to remember, okay, this is where I need to go, he literally just clicks buttons and it saves him an immense amount of time. And then the thing that we are probably most proud of, if we go to that kind of last principle, which is making you productive, we are noticing a more efficient navigation to help you progress the work. So you no longer have to be like, okay, where do I go for this? It's just intuitive. And we're seeing people actually go from navigation to completion of tasks faster. And so I think that's a really, really powerful thing. So these are all the, the quantitative things that we've observed from the different kind of pre-GA phases. But we also got quotes from customers. And I want to give you a little bit of context on each customer, because I think it will hopefully help frame what they're excited about. So this is probably one of my favorite quotes that we got. This is from a enterprise customer who has been trying for years to get his organization consolidated on Atlassian products. And he had always kind of hit a bit of a wall when it came to business teams. And their feedback was, I have to jump in, I have to jump out. It doesn't really feel like Atlassian, right? I have to learn this whole new thing. And they were just kind of like rejecting it in some ways, because it was just a lot of work for them to think about, how do I do this and then do that? And it's just like, oh. So seeing this experience and seeing him actually like kind of rolling this out to his team is just his feedback he gave. He's like, hey, this isn't headed in the right direction. You're homogenizing the experience to how the Atlassian products work together, which is really exciting. And this last comment here is, you don't need to be in a different mindset. It's rather exciting that it's all coming together. Like, to me, it's like, this is a stepping stone to making sure that when you use Atlassian products, it just feels natural. And navigation shouldn't be something that's in the forefront. It should be something that accelerates and enables what you do. And so this is kind of a really, really big opportunity, or for this kind of comment here of where we're going, but also kind of how we can actually help make people more productive. We have a few other quotes in here. We have some people who love the Kanbans on side-by-side projects, working in between. So this person works across many different projects, and they just are able to kind of flip in between. So they're like my senior engineering manager. For Jira in particular, we did put tabs on the top. We took that choice to make sure it's consistent with business projects. So you have kind of consistency across Jira. So it's not kind of like now you have another layer of like cognitive overload. Is it business? Is it software? How does it look? We wanted to make sure every Jira project looked the same. And so with this, though, it did leave more space for people to have tickets on their screen and be able to move things through. We did kind of work through looking at the developer feedback, an opportunity to kind of help them, in particular with giving them more space for their apps. And so this is the type of feedback that we took on from EAP to help our developers. So this gives more focus mode as well in the future. This is actually from a very large Australia company, and they have a split between, I guess, developers and I would say 80% business teams using this. And the business teams were just hooked after a few minutes. They were just like, oh my gosh, this is so much easier to use, and I love the customization. And so, and the last one we always get is, when is this going to go to GA? I think we've had, a lot of people just say, can you turn it on now? And you're like, there's a few things we're doing. So I just wanted to kind of give people some perspective that we've gone through a lot of different rounds of testing and kind of feedback, and we have iteratively improved the navigation. And I'll kind of walk you through what those are. And so I'm going to actually stop sharing this, and I'm actually going to get into the product itself so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. And as I said before, there is an admin demo. So just make sure you go to the FAQ in this community post, and you can kind of see the design manager walk you through what that looks like. So with that, I'm going to switch my tabs.
Kristen, just real quick question that we got. Are these slides going to be available after this?
Yeah, I can get you a PDF and hand them over. So
perfect. Thank you.
Yep, for sure. All right. So this is my, excuse me. I'm going to pretend that I am I've always wanted to be a lawyer. So if I was in the legal team, this is probably what my navigation would look like. The first thing I want to kind of call out is like, this is like everything on the navigation that we have right here. But, if I'm in legal, right, I don't really care about teams, don't care about assets, don't care about filters. I probably don't use plans. I just need to make sure the project teams that I'm supporting aren't doing anything against the law. Okay, maybe I'm just going to put this right here. And so if I do that, I actually see my side nav actually clean all the way up. A few other things that we're doing just for your benefit is we are merging these two pieces together under your work. So this is going to be another kind of feature enhancement that we are going to take, so you can actually clean this up a little bit more and kind of get more focused and specific on what you're doing. The other thing I want to kind of call out on this kind of side nav is we do have starred and recent. And so one of the pieces of feedback that we did get is that this is a bit cluttered, which is fair. It's a very fair feedback. We are adding custom display settings. So you can actually pick, do you want starred or do you want recent, and how many do you want to show? So that way it's your choice of kind of what you want to see. Some people want to see both because they love that they're different in terms of kind of how they work and operate. As you can see here, there's, this is this individual here, but like, it's up to you. And again, the whole point is making sure you have choice and you can kind of make sure that you can stay organized in a way that makes sense for you. So there are some more enhancements coming here. But this is kind of maybe what I wanted to chat about the most is that previously projects was up here in that sidebar. We've moved, or in the top nav, we've moved this down over here. And so what you'll see here is this is kind of the in context stuff that I was talking about. Everything you need is just right here. And then what we have up top is basically all your global utilities. And so you have your profile, your settings, your product help, your notifications, and chat. So these are all the things that you would just kind of globally need at that level. And then we have just search and create. So again, keeping the top bar global was really important for us. The other thing that we wanted to do as well, just to help you stay in context, is to collapse the sidebar. So you can just kind of move that in, create more space, pull it back out when you're ready to make a move. So this is kind of what it looks like as an example. So what I just want to kind of walk you through is, I can quickly flip between products. So for example, if I was buying a new it was a legal aid, if you will, a lawyer helping people with someone buy a facility, I could actually just jump in, see what they're doing. And let's just say I need to go to my legal hub and see what work I need to do. I can quickly just jump in between projects. And I may want to actually, clean this up and move my, timesheet over here because I'm going to have to approve time. I can click into that and you can start to see there's a variety of different things that we can do in terms of just moving things around up top. And maybe I actually, I don't need that. I don't need a board. I don't need that. I don't need maybe I don't need that. And you can just start to kind of see where you want to move things. And I can actually, set views as defaults. So if I, as a project admin, think that it's better to land in a timeline view than a list view, I can actually just set this as my default. I get a notification, and then every time someone lands in my project, this is where they go. So it's an easier way for you to manage your project. At this time for this Jira nav, only admins can actually kind of take the actions I just took. The reason for that is we do want to make sure we're somewhat cautious in terms of how we roll out some of these customizations. In our research with project admins, they felt comfortable, and with end users, they felt comfortable that a project admin would actually know how to keep kind of this top bar navigation clean for them and only have what they need, and also know what apps they need. So if you don't need, for example, any apps showing, you can just remove it. Now, when I say remove, everything is here. So it's actually not removed from the project, it's just hidden. And so you can always bring these things back and just add it to the navigation and it'll pop back up. So it gives you a bit more flexibility to make sure you can kind of customize the view for your individual project teams. Again, making sure that it's fit for them and they don't see kind of a list of things that they absolutely have to do. But so this is my project. Maybe I want to go to the dev team and see what they're up to make sure they're not doing anything that I wouldn't approve of. And you can just kind of, again, flick through different things. And then, okay, I need to go to another team and make sure that, the ideas they're thinking about, like they don't actually start building something that isn't legally approved, right? You can go into JPD. So this is a JPD. This was Jira, JPD, or Jira Product Discovery rather. And you can start to just see how you can flip in between products quite easily and while you're doing these things. And the navigation will just kind of expand. So you can kind of move in between the different pieces that you need and you can close it up. And maybe I want to go check on IT ops, see what the queues look like. Is there anything like my chatbot saying and giving away free flights? You can start to see what's going on. And so it allows you just to kind of flip in between the different products that you need. And let's just say I don't really care about facilities. I can actually just remove it and it's gone. I don't really care. Maybe I don't care about my own team. I'll just leave it. I think those are different pieces that you can kind of do to make sure that this is actually fit for you. The other thing I just want to call out, because this has been coming up quite often, is project settings. So we move project settings to be more intuitively in this kind of meatball menu next to the project. This has been probably one of the biggest learnings that we've had throughout EAP and open beta is this change has been hard for a lot of people to find. Typically they'll go here into the settings bar, but we try to keep everything global up here. So that's why we took that choice, but this is probably just a heads up for everybody that this is going to be probably one of the areas that you're going to get some questions on. We are building material to kind of help answer those questions to make sure folks are across it. So just as a heads up, we know this is a challenge and we're going to try and help you out with some more material to make sure people can find it. But I might just start this again. You also add people, as I mentioned, there's a few things we moved, but that's kind of the navigation as a whole. I'm going to actually flip back to my slides because the next question I have a feeling you're all going to ask me is when am I going to get this? and I have answers. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the rollout. I want to first call out it's directional. And the reason it's directional is it is going to be kind of this back half. Uh, we don't necessarily, it depends on how everything goes, as with everything, right? So on the rollout itself, I think there's a few things I just want to call out that we took on board to make sure that we're not forcing change without kind of making sure we understand the risk and change management aspects. So what I mean by that specifically is you'll notice there's kind of a longer rollout here. We wanted to do this to allow for admins and end users to adopt to the change. We understand we are changing the front door of Atlassian. We are asking people to kind of learn where we put different things. I talked to an admin and she told me, "You're moving my cheese," which is fair. We are moving the cheese. And so we want to make sure that we are, one, giving you enablement material. There's a lot of other things that are going to be coming in the next few weeks from me and the team, side-by-side photos. Here's before, here's after, here's where this thing's found here, here's where it's found here, just so you guys have that material ready to go. But we also wanted to make sure we gave a little bit more direction and choice for people to kind of think about, when can I actually, is this navigation right for me? And when I talk about choice, it is kind of this piece down here, but I'll kind of walk through the timeline a little bit for you. The first is kind of where we are today. So if you were in the EAP or the open beta, you're going to continue to get the new nav, no matter what. That just continues on, no questions asked. So the one thing I would call out is the open beta signups are ending on the 13th of February. So probably, I think, in the next day or two. So if you want to be part of that open beta cohort, get it early for your production site, for your testing site, for your, whatever you need. Let me know. We can kind of fill out the form and get that in before kind of we close that off and start to focus on GA. So GA is going to be in March. It's probably going to be in the latter half of March, just so everyone can kind of not freak out that it's not 2 weeks away. It's probably in the back half. But the way that we're thinking about what's going to happen in March is we're going to start rollout for the standard edition across all of these products. And I guess maybe one other point just to call out that might be useful. The way that we're thinking about aggregating the rollout is by looking at the customer itself and how many products does the customer have and what is the edition parity of those products. So what I mean by that specifically is Acme Co has 3 products. They have Jira, Confluence, and Jira Service Management. Jira is standard, Confluence is premium, and Jira Service Management is standard. We would actually put that customer in all of their products in premium. The reason we're doing that is we want to have a unified experience. And what I mean by that is, like, as a customer, if I use multiple products, I don't want to have to go, Jira gets rolled out and then Confluence is a little bit delayed. That we want those things to go together. So that's why we're taking more of a customer kind of org view of how we roll these things out, taking the highest watermark edition for that particular customer. We did that because if you have a higher edition, you typically need a bit more time to manage your change processes within your company, and we want to be respectful of that. So that's kind of why we took that approach. But so all standard edition products and customers that have those products will start the rollout in probably the back half of March. We're also going to turn the new navigation on for all free editions and all new trials. So if you yourself want to go try this up, spin it up, test out the functionality, break it and tell me what I need to fix, that's awesome. You can do that by, it'll be on your free edition. And then for all new trials, if you just want to kind of spin one up, you can actually see the new navigation as well. For our larger customers that have sandboxes, you'll be able to opt in. So we will be giving kind of those admins of those particular sites the opportunity just to say, hey, I want to see the new navigation in my sandbox, just so they can get familiar with it. We didn't want to turn it on by default because we know there's testing and we know there's a lot of other things that you're doing. So we just want to make sure, again, admins have control in terms of kind of what the change is coming down with. And then in July, we'll start with premium edition customers. September is around enterprise. And then by the end of the year, we should be at 100% of all customers on the new navigation. So this is kind of how we're thinking about rolling this out and making sure that we are taking more of a risk-based approach. Because again, this is a big change. And the change isn't just the product, but it's also the people. It's the change management within your org. It's a variety of different docs that you probably have to update. And for that last piece, that's why we're trying to give as much material up front that we can that shows from to images. So you guys can hopefully accelerate some of that as much as possible, or have a bit more information at your fingertips to get that going. But I think with that, I think I've covered all the very different topics I can. And now I'm willing to get grilled and take any questions that y'all might have.
Awesome. Kristen, while we're still sort of on the timeline topic, there is a question about data center and if there's a plan for this changes to happen in data center at some point or at all.
Yeah, as far as I understand it, at this point, we haven't discussed it going to data center. I think it's just for the cloud products.
Okay. All right. All right, so I'm gonna go through the Q&A section. If you guys have opinions on which questions you want answered, feel free to throw in those votes now. So the first question we have is from Susan. You can currently change the order of the tabs in a project. So when this new navigation comes out, will it remember those tab changes that we've made in our instance?
It will. It will. So if you change those tabs, I probably could have gone back and gone back in. It is persistent until the next change. So basically, it will stay as you set it until you change it again.
Okay, so even from old navigation to new navigation, we'll remember.
Okay. So on that one in particular, we are investigating how we can actually make that happen. Right now, we don't have a solution at speaking, but it is something we are thinking about. So there might have to be some initial tweaks, but we are looking at how we can grab that information and pull it over.
Okay.
But
Awesome.
nothing set in stone yet. So I just want to be very clear that we're looking at it. We know it's a problem, but we haven't got a solution working yet. But if we do, we'll definitely post it in the community.
Okay, thank you. Next question that we have is from Joe. Is it clear when a change is going to impact everyone in the project versus a personal preference?
Yes. So that is something we learned in EAP and open beta. What we observed in EAP was that customization was actually quite low because of exactly this question of not knowing, is this just for me or is this for my entire site? So one of the things that we've done that you'll see with GA is actually been more specific about when you make this change, this is just for you. This is just for you. And so the easiest way, I guess, for this group to think about it is anything on the sidebar is all end user focused. It's only just for that person. Anything in the tabs in Jira is for the entire project. So if you have 100 people in a project, they're all going to see what you have there. But if you are part of that project and your side nav is different, that's completely fine. So hopefully that helps clarify a little bit. But we're putting better messaging in.
Awesome. Thanks you. Okay, next question we have is from Eric. Can an agent set his own default view, or is the administrator the one that manages the views that are available?
When you talk about views specifically, are you talking about the tabs or are you talking about the sidebar?
Yeah, I mean, I assume it's maybe a little bit of both, and I think you maybe answered it a little bit with that last question of it sounds like the tabs are going to have maybe a default view, but then the sidebar, or is there any sort of when I log in for the first time, here's what your setup's going to be?
Yeah, so we do have a preference in terms of how when people land in Jira or JSM, what they will see and how it will, I guess, the first impression, if you will. But then customers can change the sidebar, and the project admin can actually change the tabs. And the project admin is going to be the one that can actually set the view as I need you to land in queues, or I need you to land in this view in particular. So I think it's just kind of, I guess it depends on what view you're talking about. But if it's project based, it's probably going to be your project admin. If it is on the sidebar in particular, it's going to be you that can take that change.
Okay, thank you. This is from Zahava. Sorry if I pronounce it wrong. Do you have any plans to include Jira Align?
Yeah, we are working with that team specifically to kind of work through what those challenges are. We just haven't mentioned it because we don't have, we're still looking through, we're in active discussion. So any of the products that you didn't see on those top 6, we're all in active discussions with all of those other products. So I think Bitbucket might have come up at some point, Jira Align. We are working with them to have the consistent navigation, but we don't have any firm dates yet with them set. And so those will come through on the community post or in the public roadmap as those become available. So we're in discussion. So we know it's a challenge. We know we need to solve it, but it's just working through timelines right now.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, now we have one from Marcel. So will we be able to add the project settings in the project navigation? I'm currently in beta and I find it a little bit unintuitive that you only get it via the more action button in the left navigation bar.
So we don't have any plans to actually change project settings specifically. It's more around the discoverability. And I can give you some context as to why we're not going to change it. One of the other things that we were doing, besides just testing and kind of watching users, we actually did a diary study. We did a diary study with, I think, about 30 different users. And we did get consistent feedback that project settings is here. And then once we explained to them, oh, this is here, this is why, they were like, oh, okay, this is actually isn't a challenge anymore. So I think, by looking at that feedback in particular and watching how those users actually use project settings, we got confidence that it's actually okay to put there, but appreciate that it will be a bit of a change for people to kind of get used to that. So, this has been kind of a diary study that's happened for about better part of 12 weeks at this point. So it is kind of, longer standing. And this is kind of that customer behavioral change aspect that is going to be very difficult when you move, the cheese, if you will, for a navigation.
This is from Katie. If I sign up for the EAP, would it change to the new navigation for my whole site, or would it just be connected to my account?
It would just be to so we use it by your URL or hosting. So if it's Katie's awesome site.atlassian.net, we would just take that ID, the tenant ID or the site ID, and we put that into the EAP or the open beta.
So it'd be for the whole site, but not necessarily a whole org if you're like an enterprise.
Yeah, exactly. Only if you actually want it. Only if you actually want that. That's for sure. So we do have some enterprise customers that have opted in their entire production sites, which was super exciting to see. Wasn't expecting that, to be honest, but they loved it. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. So, I mean, the open beta is open to any additions or site types. So if you're using it just for testing or you're actually going to put it in production, you can, but we will be specific by that particular kind of a URL that we will use to kind of dictate, okay, this is where this goes.
So once you request it and it gets, you get applied to your site, all users would see the new navigation.
Exactly. So it wouldn't just be just Katie. It would be everyone that is in Katie's awesome site.atlassian.net would see that.
Cool. Thank you. We have just a comment from Felix. He says, this looks a lot like Notion.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say it's a lot like Notion. I think it's actually more like other competitors like Asana or maybe Monday. But yeah, we did take kind of a look at kind of what does good best-in-class navigation look like and how can we apply that. So that goes back to kind of those industry standards, what's best in class for what we're trying to do, what are those different competitors that do this really, really well. And so we did kind of take those affordances to make sure that we can kind of make sure that you're not, one, it's intuitive, and two, it's kind of a pattern that you're familiar with. So as you move in between products, it's not like Atlassian decided to do something different. It's like, oh, okay, I'm used to this. I know where to go. And that's what we're seeing in a lot of the core actions and people being more active is we know they move in between products. That's completely fine. But because we have a lot of those affordances, we do see kind of more activity and more work getting progressed in the new navigation. So fair point. It is kind of a best in class navigation that we pulled from, but it is, again, just kind of part of the process when we were designing this.
Awesome. Could enterprise customers enable the new navigation earlier? And this question is from Bill.
Yes, we purposely, so what I would say is anyone who wants to opt in earlier, that's great. We did not anticipate a lot of early adopters in the premium and enterprise segment, just given the amount of change management that they need to go through. So the way to think about that timeline is if you do nothing, this is when you're likely going to get the nav. If you want to be proactive and you want to get this sooner, work with your CSM or your EA, and we will be able to work out how we get this in. But we purposely wanted to kind of keep customers that we know are a bit more risk averse to change, particularly because the org challenges and change management challenges that come with that and the complexity. We wanted to give them a significant amount of time to be able to kind of land those different discussions and materials they need in their organization. But if you're ready to go, that's great to know. We can kind of make that happen. But there's nothing from stopping you going earlier. That's actually encouraged. We'd love that to happen. But we're just kind of taking a realistic approach that like not every customer may be like you. in the enterprise segment, and we just want to be respectful of that.
Yeah, so there's a few questions with sort of this opt-in. One is, first of all, how do I opt in? Is there a link, and how do I do that? And then, specifically, can I opt in the sandbox for like if I have a premium enterprise instance earlier than March?
Yeah, no, for sure. So in the open beta form itself, that's what you want to actually fill out. I think it's on the community post. If not, I can send it to you. I think what we've been using is the community post that has all this material and just sending people through there. In that open beta form, it'll ask you kind of what site type you want. If you want multiple, that's fine too. And then you just sign up, and then we need to get all those signups in though before the end of the 13th of February. I think it's US time. Then we can actually, because that's going to be the last kind of wave of open beta that we have. After that, you're probably going to have to wait until probably mid to late March. And then for those customers who are in Sandbox, there'll be a toggle for your admin just to turn it on. So they'll be able to see that, so they can get the new navigation applied in all sandboxes that they have. And then for other customers who just want to try it, it will be for all free and new trial. So you'll be able to see it as well with that kind of signing up, or if you have a free instance already. And if you do want to kind of sign up earlier, we are working through what that process looks like. But ultimately, we are trying to just say work through your CSMs or work through support, and we'll kind of pull together a plan. We're building out opt-in functionality at the moment. So we're just trying to, the reason why we don't have comms out on that yet, there's still a few things we're trying to figure out to make sure it's an easier to use experience and that the admins have control. But it is something that is top of mind of how do we allow all customers, if they're super eager, just to hit a button and it's on. But we want to make sure that we have all the answers, and we're still working through that actively at the moment. So I would expect some more comms from us on that, probably coming in the next week or two via community, once we land some of those decisions and kind of work items.
Awesome. And I did just put in the chat the link to that community post, which gives a lot more information as well. So that's where the opt-in link and all that is there for you. So go check out that link for those resources. So while we're on this topic, just to confirm a couple things, there's a question from Katie and a question from John. So Katie, how can we access the beta version or a sandbox that we can test into to prepare our users? So it sounds like if you're on standard, you can maybe spin up a free site. Is that kind of the recommendation? And then if you're on enterprise or premium, use your sandbox, or?
Yeah, no. So I think it's basically, what is your risk preference? My understanding, and at least, correct me if I'm wrong, is that if I have a sandbox, I'm probably pretty risk averse, is probably kind of the proxy that we've been using. You can still enable that on your sandbox. Just fill out the open beta form if you want it super soon, or you can wait until mid to late March, and then you can actually just toggle it on yourself. If you want to test it now, there are potentially, if you go into, so we are running experiments, as I mentioned, on the trials. So any new customers to really understand kind of what this design change and experience change means, because they don't have kind of they don't know that we've moved the cheese. They just know this is what it is, right? And so that gives us another signal to think about kind of the changes we've made. So you could also just start a trial, and you'll probably have a 50-50 shot of getting the new navigation. So if you want to try it today, that's what you can do as well. But coming in March, again, mid to late March, all free instances will have it, and then all new trials will have it. So it depends on kind of immediacy, I guess, in terms of what you're looking at, and the risk level of kind of what you want to test on, is what I would mention.
Okay, so then John is starting a data center to cloud migration. Woo! We wish you luck, John. Circa March or later. So would he have the new navigation the entire time?
Yeah, so we're working with CMMs at the moment to enable them with change management material. Our ideal, and John, you can tell me one way or the other, it'd be good to get some live customer feedback. We believe it's probably easier to land, if you have the enablement material, to land into the new navigation versus having to kind of get an old navigation and manage a cloud migration, which is probably going to be good luck. It's very painful from what I hear. But thank you
You
for
can do
doing
it.
it. Appreciate it. Yeah, you can do it. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. But like it's easier to do that and just have all the change all at once than kind of splitting the change. And so that was the thinking. But appreciate any feedback if maybe we got it wrong. But we are working with CMMs to arm them with enablement material, understand the pipeline of migrators that are coming through, so we can work with them individually and just kind of share, hey, this is where this is going, and give you like you can also get sandbox access to kind of play around with that as well, to make sure that like as you're doing testing in the new navigation, does it work, does it not, like just to give you a better sense of kind of what that looks like, because it is a change. So I guess TLDR, working with CMMs, expectations that will land you into the new navigation, and welcome feedback if you think that is the wrong idea, because I think there's, we're always open to feedback and kind of making sure we're doing the right thing by customers. So if you feel that's not correct, like I'd love to chat to you and learn more.
Yeah, John's note here says it's good for us to not to start a migration with the old and then change to the new. So
Okay, all right. So this is good. Appreciate it. Yeah, but I would just say for everyone that's on the call, if there is any kind of I guess feedback, would love to hear it. I think for us, again, we'd love just to make sure we're thinking about these things. I think there's a lot of good questions already, but like if there's any that you're just like, after the session, like if you can ask Erica and she can funnel them to me and we can definitely kind of work through them. But this feedback is super useful for me and the team.
Okay, so we have some UI questions in our last few minutes here. So the first question is from Felix. Will there be UI changes to the administration functions?
There will be, but not immediately. So there is a Loom that is on the from the December 20th kind of session that we did. We did an AMA with customers, I think, then at that point as well. That was another question that was asked. We have a Loom of what that experience is going to look like, so you can actually kind of sense when that is. It's not going to be as part of this March release, but it will be coming shortly thereafter. The timelines haven't yet been announced, but you can actually see what it will look like, just so you're kind of across what those changes would be. But I can direct you to the specific Loom video if you like, just to take a peek.
Awesome. And then there was a question here, from the projects view, how would you star or unstar?
Oh, yeah, no, I'll just show you right now. Let me just pop this up. So from the project side, so let's just say I want to star unstarred. You just click it, I can remove from starred. And then if I want to, I can add to starred. So it's just under the meatball menu that you can do that. You can also add people. So this is like, I think this piece right here this was a choice, again, like I mentioned about like being intuitive. And this is the diary study, I think, feedback that we took on, because I think there was a previous question about project settings. The reason we kept this here was that one, we thought it was intuitive, and over that 12-week diary study period of people that had it, didn't have it before, and what they're doing now, this is where that came in, but this is how you do it. So we're trying to make sure that like it's just kind of in flow. So it's like, oh, I'm in a project, what do I want to do to it? If I have the permissions to do it, I may want to add people, I may want to star it, I may want to change something to it, but it's all kind of right here versus going up here. So it's just kind of like, it wasn't, I guess, keeping it like in flow, using that principle again, like coming up here to do something didn't really feel as intuitive as just making it from the drop down. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, thank you. And then there was a question around overviews. Was the overviews listed under the more in the left navigation?
In terms of, are you like overviews the view? Is that what?
Yeah, I'm not sure what overviews. I don't know if it's the summary or.
Oh yeah, so we do have the summary view. So this is like in business projects, we have the summary view. It's still here. Under more though, oh, apologies. Maybe I'll just tell you what's under more. Under more is basically everything that I've hidden. So if you, like, let's just say that like, maybe I realize I need analytics, or maybe I need dashboards, I can just pop that up. And then when I save that, it would just pop here. So ultimately, like it doesn't really, I guess for the views, you get to pick what you want. So on the overviews, I'm not really sure what that means, but you can kind of.
Jonathan's clarified. It's the combo of multiple projects.
Oh, like a board? Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, so it's a feature, if I remember correctly, on business projects. There's like the overviews, and you can have
Got
multiple
it.
business projects in this overview.
Yes. So we didn't take away any of that functionality, but I will have to go double check with that team just to kind of figure out where it's at. So I know it's here. It's just don't necessarily know where to look for it at the moment, but I can follow that up with you. So.
Yeah. Yeah, on we're running close on time, so I'm not sure we're going to be able to get to too many other questions, and so I just want to call out a couple things here. So one, I've linked in the chat a couple of times. The resources that are out there, and I can share those again as well. But I also want to call out that coming up on March 5th and March 6th, Kristen's going to be doing another session on this navigation changes, and be able to answer a lot more questions as well for you. So, if there's people who missed this event, or you have team members, admins you want to share this with, I'll shoot this link into the chat so you guys can have this. But that is coming up really soon too, and another opportunity for you to provide feedback, ask questions, and just learn a little bit more as well. So that is there. And then here, I'll throw that into the chat here. So there's the link to that webinar. And then I really just want to call out, Atlassian community. There is a whole section just for this navigation refresh. And it is a great resource to go out there and ask questions. People in the community can answer those questions, and you're not just relying on Kristen, right, being available, or somebody from Atlassian being available. So, maybe there's people who have attended events and gotten some of these questions answered. That's going to be a great place for you to go out there as well. So really just want to just call out those things, and just make sure you're aware of those. And with that, thank you, Kristen, so much for taking the time to join us and share all this. I think you really just sort of eased all of our minds a little bit of like, okay, this is the timeline, this is when I need to prepare, and then really just this is what the changes are. So I've thrown a bunch of links in the chat. As I mentioned, I'm going to get an email out to all of you as well with those links. So if you didn't save them or anything like that, I'll have the support document link, the community link, this webinar that's coming up in March, and I'll make sure and share all of those things for you as well. Don't forget to join us at Team 25. We would love to see you, and you can ask more questions in person, and she'll hopefully have a whole team of people there to help her out as well.
Indeed. So, yes.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. appreciate everybody joining this session. Kristen, thank you again, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Bye.
See ya.